Chapter 6 Forbidden Fruits. Desmond arrived at Pemberton's flat shortly after sundown. When he entered the parlor, he was pleased to see one of the guests, Professor Edgar Wilcox, a short man in his middle years, with flaming red hair and a wide, bristly mustache. Smartly dressed, he had on a lecture jacket, tweed vest, spectacles, and a broken, aged top hat.
"Quick, old boy!"
Pemberton bellowed.
"Look who's come to pay us a visit."
"I see," Desmond said, approaching. "And it's good to see you at that, Professor."
"Good to see you too, Mr. Quick,"
Wilcox said, standing from the card table to shake Desmond's hand.
"It's been too long. You look well. You'll have to catch me up on things. That is, if you're staying."
They both looked to Pemberton.
"Take a seat if you wish," Pemberton said. "But do it quickly. You're holding up the game."
An invitation, not a demand. Normally, Desmond would relish an opportunity to spend the last few hours of the evening trying to make a few extra marks or checking in on a special lady friend. In spite of that, he took the open seat beside Wilcox and watched as the game in progress unfolded. There were 3 other characters at the table, 2 of which were brothers, Mo and Cliff, about the same age as Desmond. The other was an old retired sailor named Boone. Lee Piper brought Desmond a stack of clay chips and a tumbler of gin.
"Say, Mr. Pemberton, sir, you own this here penthouse?"
Mo said.
"Of course I do. An Empyrean never leases his home,"
Pemberton said.
"What's lease?"
Cliff said.
"It means rent,"
Professor Wilcox said.
"I purchased it from the woman who runs that ratty soup kitchen up the way,"
Pemberton continued.
"What's her name again?"
"Zara Smythe."
"That's the one. Seems a lovely lady on the outside, but underneath, she's as cunning as they come."
"If you'll permit me, Lord Pemberton, I wouldn't go so far as that. I know her well. Very shrewd, yes, but Zara is also wise and compassionate, and I'd say she's done a lot of good for Mudhaven since coming here."
Wilcox laughed.
"Though I am sad to hear you found yourself at the bargaining table with her."
"As am I,"
Pemberton said, jovial.
"I paid quite a sum for this place, though, in my estimation, it was worth every penny."
"It is a lovely spot, old boy,"
Wilcox said, then gestured to the bank of windows before them.
"That view! Nothing quite like it."
Now that it had been pointed out to him, Desmond took a moment to admire the view, his focus drawn to the twinkling towers of Emberside across the river.
"I like Mrs. Smythe,"
Mo said.
"Me and my wife got us a nice spot in Rock Bottom Ridge on account of her vouching for my moral fiber and whatnot."
"Yes, yes,"
Pemberton said.
"As it's already been established, quite a remarkable woman. The bet's to you."
Mo glanced between his hand and the opportunity cards, then he threw in a couple chips.
"Where about you live, Professor?"
Cliff said.
"My home is in Middlebridge,"
Wilcox said.
"Wowee! That far up river? You got a house there?" "I do." "How big a house?"
Mo said.
"It's of a modest size. I'd like to think anyway,"
Wilcox said, then chuckled.
"But I suppose that's all just a matter of perspective." "And you own it?" "In part, yes. I took out a loan from a bank when I purchased it, and until I pay that loan back, the bank holds the deed on my home."
"You still gotta pay rent, though?"
Cliff said. Pemberton was getting impatient, drinking his drink in silent irritation.
"I don't pay rent,"
Wilcox said.
"Instead, I pay a set amount of money to the bank each week. A portion of that payment goes to the bank as a fee for them letting me borrow the money in the first place. That's called interest. And the remaining portion pays down the principal balance." "Principal balance,"
Mo repeated.
"What's that?"
Cliff said.
"It's the amount still left to pay on the loan."
Wilcox said.
"Oh, and you get to own the deed once you pay all the principal balance."
"That's exactly right. At which point you never have to pay, well, let's call it rent, ever again."
"No rent?
"Ever again?"
That's what I spend almost all my money on every week."
"Ever again? And what's more,"
The professor went on,
"if, say, I chose to move before paying off the—"
"Bloody hell, man!"
Pemberton said.
"This must be the dullest conversation to which I've ever been a party."
Wilcox chuckled, then shook his head.
"Oh, dear me. I do apologize, Lord Pemberton. Seems I've left my teaching cap on after hours."
"No harm done, old chap. I've always just left the numbers side of my estate to Cutler. Talk about money bores me to tears, to tell you the truth."
"Of course. What shall be our change of topic?"
"Say, I got a question for you, Mr. Pemberton, sir,"
Boone said, his voice rough and thick.
Someone once told me they heard you one time come face to face with the dread pirate.
He gulped.
Captain Blake Douglas. You know, I've also heard this rumor, and I keep meaning to ask you about it.
Yes,
Pemberton said.
So it's true, then? You actually saw him?
Boone said.
of course I saw him. I was a guest aboard his flagship for several weeks.
A guest?
Wilcox said.
Oh, all right, a hostage. Though I'm loath to use such a coarse word for it. The old boy Blake surrendered his own personal quarters to me for the entire voyage, while my estate arranged to pay the ransom.
You paid the ransom?
Mo said.
Of course I paid the ransom. Only a fool would perish to spare his estate a few 100,000 marks.
I always heard Empyreans never pay the ransom.
Cliff said.
Right. No negotiations with thieves and cutthroats.
Mo added.
It all probably depends on who's being ransomed.
Wilcox said.
Cut from the same cloth, Douglas and I.
Pemberton said.
A gentleman through and through, with fine tastes and an unending thirst for adventure. We shared magnificent food and drink from some of the most exotic, far-flung places in the known world. It was the best of times.
He's shown you his sea serpents?
Boone said.
No, those stories did not begin circulating until much later, and I seriously doubt there's any truth to them.
I knew the fellow sailor once said he seen Blake commune with a sea serpent with his own 2 eyes.
I'm sure your companion was merely telling tales.
Or else he was drunk,
Cliff said, grinning when the comment drew a laugh from Pemberton.
Seemed a pretty honest guy, even drunk.
Boone said.
It's all certainly poppycock and nonsense, and I saw no evidence of it during my time with him.
Pemberton said.
Very unlikely that anyone could understand the speech of a dumb animal.
If you'll permit me, Lord Pemberton, but my studies into serpent lore lead me to believe they are indeed intelligent.
Wilcox said.
Similar to dragons, but being aquatic creatures, it's far more difficult to bridge the language barrier with sea serpents. I hear some can speak through magic,
Boone said.
To whom? Are they having conversations with the fishes and the whales?
Pemberton said.
I suppose a clam must have thrilling tales to share whilst attending serpent social gatherings.
You'll likely think it a foolish notion, but I'd be very interested to know the thoughts of a clam.
Wilcox said.
What a truly unique perspective from which to see the world.
Professor, I don't think it a foolish notion, just a boring one.
Well then, to bring us back to our original subject, how did you come to be aboard the flagship of Captain Blake Douglas?
Oh, Blake captured our vessel on my return voyage from Teague.
Teague, Desmond heard himself say.
That's right,
Pemberton said, then took a sip of scotch. Boone threw in a couple chips.
It's a big island country way out in
I
the...
know what it is.
Desmond said.
I just didn't know Mr. Pemberton had been there. Good heavens,
Pemberton said.
my visit to Teague was an adventure entirely unto itself, but probably better left for another night.
I'd always understood it's near impossible to book passage to Teague,
Wilcox said.
even for an Empyrean.
Boone said. Pemberton smiled.
And yet I was bound and determined to get there. Tempests, sea serpents, and pirate lords be damned.
I heard Tangerines is from Teague,
Piper said, standing nearby. All eyes turned toward the serving boy. Pemberton was on the verge of reprimanding him, but Professor Wilcox beat him to the punch.
Right you are, Mr. Piper. Tangerines, lemons, limes, and many other exotic fruits originate from Teague, though in recent decades, most of our domestic supply is cultivated by the Sweetleaf Fruit Company in their orchards across southern Imperia.
I ain't never had a tangerine,
Cliff said.
Me neither,
Said Mo. Boone shook his head sadly.
Take my word for it, gentlemen. They're overrated.
Pemberton said.
You know, in my youth, I once spent a summer at the Sweetleaf Estate. They're on a goddamn gorgeous spot of land out there, and the Sweetleafs throw exquisite parties.
I'd imagine they do,
Wilcox said, tossing a few chips into the pot.
Have you ever had a tangerine, Mr. Quick?
Desmond was caught off guard, having refocused on his cards.
No, I haven't.
He said.
Well, if you ever get the opportunity, I recommend you try one.
Maybe someday, Professor.
Though he didn't believe that day would be any time soon. He had handled exactly 3 tangerines in his life and hadn't eaten a one of them. A single tangerine was worth at least 100 marks in Mudhaven, and he knew buyers who'd pay up to 200 if it was fresh. With money like that at stake, Tasting a tangerine was simply out of the question. But 10 years from now, who knew? If Desmond got to where he was going, maybe he'd have a tangerine tree right outside his own front door. Maybe even a whole orchard of them. It was near sunset the following day. The scrap of paper for which Desmond paid 75 marks to Caspar Wainwright pointed him to some place near the heart of Witherbridge Point, where, with quiet, uneasy steps, he and Sam Carter walked side by side down dark back streets made of fractured cobblestone. The air was stagnant, the smell of wet decay everywhere, and large puddles could be found at every turn. Buildings climbed 4 or 5 stories high, and practically all were made from brick. Few had any surviving windows, and where windows had once been were now bare black pits that revealed nothing from within. The brick canyons amplified every sound and spread it far and wide. Cries of violence and torment rang out at irregular intervals through the chilled gloom. If one seemed nearer than the rest, Desmond and Sam would find another route that led away from it. When they spoke, it was in hushed tones.
"Witherbridge gives me the creeps,"
Sam said.
"I don't like it either, but you gotta go where the money leads,"
Desmond said.
"Who you think will want to buy some weird rocks anyways?" "The old man said they were tinkerers." "You think they're gonna make some kind of tinkerer invention out of it?"
"That's what it sounds like. Not really our concern either way, though."
"Oh, yeah. Still, wonder what it does. The invention."
"Well, don't wonder aloud while we're in there."
"I won't."
They walked a little further, then Sam spoke again.
"You worried about them being in Mr. Ratbone's part of town?"
"Not really," Desmond said, though it did concern him a little. That was why he brought Sam along in the first place. The guy wasn't worth much in a scrap, but it was always good to have a friend with you when venturing into unfriendly territory. Samson Rathbone was the ward boss of Witherbridge Point, and he levied a hefty toll against anyone found trespassing through his domain. His crews roamed the streets in small bands, hunting for anyone without a pass. If you were caught and couldn't pay the toll in coin, you paid in blood. Not wanting to sink any more money into this venture than he already had, Desmond procured cheap fake passes before coming here, though he was warned that a sharp toll collector would probably be able to sniff them out, so avoiding Rathbone's crew altogether was the main objective. At one point, they were given a clear view of the Wailing Tower, an asymmetrical fortress of nondescript junk, perched high above on a tall, blocky hill of stone. Windows of varying size dotted its walls at random intervals, some alight from within. The whole grim monstrosity was topped with a handful of gnarled, crooked turrets. Local legend told that the Wailing Tower was built on the remains of an old suspension bridge that spanned the Marshall River, connecting Mudhaven to Rust. But the bridge collapsed shortly after its completion, and the project was abandoned. Desmond had never been able to spot a matching tower on the opposite side of the river.
"You think they can see us from up there?"
Sam said, staring up at the Wailing Tower. "No, it's too high," Desmond said.
"Oh, that's good."
Their journey continued, and after a couple close calls with toll collectors, Desmond began to wonder if this whole thing was just a wild goose chase. But then he and Sam turned a corner, and at the end of the alley ahead was a large billboard with a torn and faded ad for Annie Apple Soda, picturing a merry round-cheeked girl who brandished a glass bottle of cola, the words, "Drink Annie Apple," printed in the space beside her. Taller than it was wide, the billboard hung on the side of a 5-story building and stretched from the roof down to the second floor. Beneath it was a single metal door.
"I think that's it,"
Desmond said. Sam gulped.
"Okay."
As they marched forward, every sound jumped out at Desmond. Most were things he'd been hearing since they entered the ward, but now it all seemed more sinister and foreboding. When they were halfway down the alley, he felt on the verge of turning back. But he quickly dismissed the notion. He'd come this far, and too much time and money had already been spent. They stopped at the door, which had no knob and was rusted in spots. After taking a deep breath, Desmond knocked twice. Some rumblings emanated from within. Then a peep slot clanged open, revealing the upper half of an old man's sour face.
"What do you want?"
the man said, his voice rough. I'm looking to sell a hammer," Desmond said, reciting the password he'd been given. The man eyed Desmond and Sam, then he slammed the peep slot shut. Soon the heavy door swung open, and the old man, ragged and grizzled, stood on the other side, a dark passageway behind him.
"Move it, you sons of bitches,"
he said, a lit cigarette bobbing up and down between his lips as he spoke. Desmond and Sam entered, and the door was shut behind them. Against the wall was a chair, and on the floor beside it was a Prolo miniature, emitting narration from some recorded story at low volume.
"Piccadilly Smith, I know this one,"
Sam said. The old man slapped the power switch on the Prolo, silencing it.
"I'll check you for weapons now,"
he said, then proceeded to pat them down. He also rummaged through Sam's pack, but found nothing of concern. When that was done, he picked up a mana lantern and activated it.
"Follow me."
Desmond and Sam were led down the dark passage, brick walls lining either side, and soon they descended some stairs. Down, 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 then left, then right, then up and up, then left, then up. As they progressed, Desmond tried hard to remember the way back, but the myriad of splits and twists and turns discombobulated his sense of direction, something that was surely intentional. Their path came to its conclusion at another metal door with no knob. Desmond studied the walls and ceiling, uncertain if they were still underground.
"Hold it here," the
old man said, approaching the door. He gave it 6 loud, succinct knocks, then he stepped back and waited. They could hear bolts being withdrawn and unfastened from within. Then the heavy metal door swung outward on hinges that screamed beneath the strain. On the other side stood a large, strong man. He was young, had a lot of scruff, and his hair was short and unkempt. A heavy set of goggles were banded to his forehead, and leather straps crisscrossed his bare chest, which was riddled with scars. His belt had so many pouches and pockets fastened to it that it resembled a skirt over his trousers, and at either hip was holstered a mana blaster. Sam let out an involuntary squeak at the sight of him, drawing the big man's attention.
"You check 'em for weapons?"
he said.
"For shit's sake,"
the old man said, pushing past.
"Only ain't done it the one time."
"One time's all it takes."
The big man eyed Desmond and Sam.
"State your business, gentlemen."
"Right," Desmond said, gathering his wits. "I have a collection of stones I'm looking to sell, and I was told an interested party might be found here." The big man did not reply. Instead, he continued to watch Desmond for a long, uncomfortable moment. "Let them through," an unseen young woman said from within. The big man stepped aside.
"In you go, fellas. Don't try anything funny."
Desmond nodded, then entered.
"I won't try nothing funny,"
Sam said, following. The door was shut behind, and they now found themselves in a long, cramped, ill-lit workshop. The air smelled of oil and hot metal, and strange tools, gadgets, and gizmos were all over the place, either glowing, ticking, humming, or whirring. There was another door on the opposite end of the room, through which the old man must have gone, and most of the remaining space was occupied by shelves, cupboards, cabinets, and a lengthy workbench. At the far end of the workbench, the young woman sat on a tall chair, hunched over some device to which she was soldering components. Apart from her petite frame, she looked much like the big man, with a similar string of pouches and pockets looped about her waist. A pair of tinted goggles covered her eyes, and a leather helmet covered her head. "I'll be right with you, please," she said, not looking up. The big man pulled a couple stools away from the workbench.
"Sit,"
he said. Desmond and Sam sat, and shortly thereafter, the young woman finished up her work. She removed her goggles, then hopped down from the chair. "Good afternoon," she said, approaching. "Or is it nighttime yet?"
"It's getting close,"
Sam said. "Could I get your names?"
"Sam, Carter."
"Pleased to meet you, Sam." The young woman turned to Desmond, who did not respond.
"What's your name, friend?"
the big man said, stepping closer. "What the hell is this?" Desmond said, against his better judgment. "We're doing introductions just now," the young woman said. "No, I mean, what's this whole setup? We came here to sell some rocks, and to do it, we're brought through a steel door in a shitty part of town, checked for weapons, led through a shadowy maze until we come to another door, then Brock the Butcher here opens up with 2 mana cannons strapped to his waist. And where did that old guy go?"
"My name is Gideon," the big man said, terse.
"Okay. We're sorry for all the cloak and dagger," the young woman said. "But I assure you it's absolutely necessary. And if you mean us no harm, you're in no danger from us either. That deal work for you?" Desmond studied her. She seemed to mean it. "Okay," he said. "Great. Why don't we start over? I'm Greta Hammerfell. That's my brother Gideon. The old man, whose name is Vern,
Probably just went to use the washroom, but he didn't say. And your pal here is Sam Carter. Now, would you mind telling us your name?
Desmond Quick.
Good. I'm glad to meet you both. If I heard correctly, you have some stones you wish to show us.
We do, Desmond said, withdrawing a piece of raw mithracite from one of his pockets. A sample. Greta accepted it.
If you'll bear with me, this won't take long.
She stepped up to the workbench and switched on the lamp. Then she pulled a jeweler's loop from around her neck and inspected the stone beneath the light. When that was done, she set it down on the countertop and grabbed a nearby power crystal, glowing a vibrant shade of blue from the charge it held. Greta grabbed a couple small black cables with metal clamps at both ends. She attached one end of the clamps to two silver nodes atop the power crystal. The other end she crudely attached to the raw mithracite itself. Sparks discharged from the final connection point. Then the blue flecks within the stone began emitting a soft, pulsating glow. Greta smiled.
Do you know what this is?
I was told raw mithracite, Desmond said.
That's right. I'd be very curious to learn how you came upon this. Though I don't expect that's something you'd care to share with us, is it?
No, I don't think it is.
Can you tell me how much you have?
50 pounds with me, but more stowed elsewhere.
How much more?
Gideon said. Actually, I think I'd like to talk price before we talk volume.
Fair enough,
Greta said. Just then, the door at the back of the room opened, and out walked Vern.
What'd I miss?
The old man said.
Nothing,
Gideon said.
You can get back to your stories. We'll take these two out the front door.
Aye, aye. Give me some more cigarettes, would you?
Gideon opened a nearby cupboard, pulled out a pack of gold standards, and tossed it to Vern.
Thanks. See ya, missy.
The metal door was opened and shut, and in between, Vern departed.
How'd you hear about us?
Greta said. Caspar Wainwright, down in Long Drop Circle, Desmond said. Gideon scoffed.
The Emporium guy.
Guess that gamble may have paid off after all.
Greta said.
You say you have 50 pounds with you?
Yeah, Desmond said.
May we see it?
Sam handed the pack he was carrying to Greta, who peeked inside and brightened. There was a brass balancing scale on the counter nearby. She dumped the stones onto one end of it. Then she set 2 iron weights on the opposite end. The scale stood even.
50 pounds, right on the money,
Greta said.
We'll give you 1,000 marks for it.
Desmond felt as though he'd just been struck by lightning, his heart pounding in his chest, his face hot, and his hands light and tingly. He could not have heard her correctly.
Did you just say 1,000 marks?
Sam said.
I did. Take it or leave it. I really hate negotiating,
Greta said.
We'll,
Desmond began, then had to clear his throat.
We'll take it. There's a caveat that comes with this deal, though,
Gideon said.
You can't tell anyone else about it. What you sold, how much you were paid, and most of all, who you sold it to.
Desmond considered. I'll agree to those terms, he said, if you tell me what's with all this secrecy.
You ever deal in stolen merchandise, Mr. Quick?
Greta said. Desmond didn't respond.
Well, the Classic Magic Company feels pretty strongly that all raw mithracite, lost, found, or undiscovered, belongs to them. As a result, we've had our research and materials stolen by their operatives on more than one occasion. So now that we're back on our feet, we'd rather avoid catching their attention again.
Desmond considered.
Okay, I buy all that. And I agree. We won't say a word to anyone.
Excellent.
Greta went to a safe in the corner of the room, dialed in a combination, then opened it up. She withdrew a fat coin purse and tossed it to Desmond. Desmond caught it and looked inside.
Should be 1,000 there.
If it wasn't 1,000 marks, it was somewhere near enough.
You can count it if you want,
Greta said. Desmond closed the coin purse, then slipped it into one of his inner coat pockets. I'll trust you, he said.
Don't hear that much around here,
Gideon said.
And you say you have more?
Greta said.
I do, and I might be able to get more still,
Desmond said.
This is good news. Perhaps we can meet up again, say in a week?
I can do that.
Vern could probably use the exercise, but you can come by way of the front door next time. It sits at the edge of Witherbridge Point, so might be a bit easier to get to.
Okay. Hey, one more thing. How much for a pack of gold standards?
Cigarettes?
Greta said with a laugh.
Just take one. Heck, take 2.
Gideon grabbed a couple packs from the cupboard and handed them to Desmond.
Much appreciated,
Desmond said, elation bubbling beneath a calm surface. Gideon led them through a series of small rooms until they came to the front door. They were deposited on a quiet street near the edge of Witherbridge Point, and night had fallen.
Until next week, gentlemen,
Gideon said, then shut the door.
Wow-wee, that went real good, huh?
Sam said, once they were far enough away.
Hey, what's caveat mean?
Desmond was too busy thinking to respond. He needed to find out how much raw mithracite they had left at the rag shop. If it was as much as he thought, and if Trudy was able to get more, this would cut years off of his long-term plans.